if you're trying to figure out if there's a market for real estate photography in your area, this video is for you. And this is actually a little bit of insight into the process we do when we're looking at coaching client applications to make sure that the market is big enough, because obviously we only work with people who we think we can actually help build a business on the coaching side. So this video is going to be behind the scenes. That way you can do that a little bit for yourself and kind of answer that question if you're considering starting a real estate photo business, because obviously there are a bunch of things to consider, but number one is if your local market actually has the opportunity, meaning there are enough houses for sale, and if people use professional photographers in the area to support your business. And I'll talk about both of those and kind of how we judge them, but we're going to jump first into the are there enough houses in your market. So the first thing I would start by doing is looking at the housing reports for either your city or county, and this will give you some baseline data, and then we'll look at the actual homes for sale and make sure that the sale price is there, that some are using professional photos and that kind of process. So I like Redfin for this data. You can just type in your city housing report Redfin and it will come up. I got kind of two different examples to show you here. So one is Granbury itself, which is a small city in Texas. It's actually where I started my photo business. And if you look it up online, it says the population is like 11,000. That's kind of inaccurate because there's Granbury and then there's like a bigger surrounding area. My guess is there's, at least multiple times that many. I'd say 30,000 at a minimum kind of in the Granbury area. So 3 times what it says. So that's why I generally recommend looking at county-wide data, especially if your state, the counties kind of make sense with the cities. Obviously, like in a bigger city, which I'll show you in a second, doesn't really matter, but I would look at the county that you're in and that will give you an idea. Now, just because there may not be as many in your county doesn't mean you couldn't drive to other markets and do like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or like the hour away county, and then the rest of the days are close to you. There's still potential. This will just give you some baseline data. So like I said, Granbury is the market where we started. We actually grew our business to the point where it was me, my brother Aaron, and then 2 employees, and like 90% of our business at that time was coming from the county that Granbury is in. So it doesn't take a big county, and I'll kind of show you the math behind that. You can see here that Granbury itself, it said there were 72 homes sold last month, which is March. I'm filming this in May, but the new data I guess isn't out yet. And that kind of gives you an insight into what more of a minimum would look like. So if you're seeing like 20 or 30 homes for sale, it doesn't mean you can't be a real estate photographer. It just means you may have to drive to other markets to make more than like 10 grand a month. I mean, you can do the math on this. So, 72 homes times an average order value of about 300 is $21,600. So there's a market size of at least $20,000 a month in this area. Now, that being said, this is a bigger area. This is just Granbury, so that's not super accurate. Generally, like I said, if you're seeing less than 20 homes, that's probably where you want to start being like, I don't know if it's going to work in my area, and start asking the questions like, am I willing to drive? Is there a bigger city I can drive to? If you really want to start a business, moving sometimes is the option. So it depends on how committed you are to real estate photography, but I'd say if you're looking at less than 20 or 30 homes per month in your area, that's going to be kind of hard to build a business just because there's not a lot of potential market size there. And then if we go over to Tarrant County, which is the county that Fort Worth is in, which is the bigger city that we serve, you can see it's significantly higher. Looks like, like 1,700 homes, which obviously there's a lot of market potential there. I mean, if I go to 1,700 times 300, you'll see that it's a massive amount of business. And so obviously this is very easy in big cities. There's $510,000 a month in potential real estate photography market in just that area. And so that kind of gives you an insight into like both sides of the market. Once you narrow that in and make sure that you're, 50 plus homes, you're good to go. I mean, that's a bigger area. You may not be able to hire 10 employees in your area, but that'll at least show you that there are some. And then I would look up the city. So I'll go to Granbury just to show you, Granbury, Texas. You'll see what we're looking for here is that it's not a bunch of super cheap homes. Obviously, in the housing report, it'll show you the median price, and so that'll give you some good data. But just qualitatively looking at this to see if they're using professional photos and that kind of thing. Usually, in most cities, you'll see a mixture. Generally, what I think is the best sign is one where there's like a couple professional photos, but most of them aren't, because usually once you start working with a couple agents in the area, the rest of them will switch to professional photos, becoming more and more common. And I'd say in most markets, professional photos are becoming much more of the norm. You can see here that like right now there's 643 properties for sale. So just because only 72 sold last month doesn't mean there aren't more for sale. Scrolling down, you can see, that's not professional. That looks like that is. It's just land, so it's not. This might be. It's drone photos, but the inside they don't look like professional photos. Maybe a good agent or an agent who's good at photos, but not too good shot those. You can see this one's definitely professional. Good clean whites, and the photos look good. And so it's kind of what we're looking for, just to see some. There's not really like a an answer here that would disqualify your business once the size is there. It's just interesting to see what you're going to be up against. If you see most of them are shot by professionals, that's actually not a bad sign. A lot of people are, oh, there's so much competition. Well, saturation in a market only matters if you have a bad business. So you can build a business that is not bad. And so all you want is that demand is there. Right. And so if you see that other, homes, and most of them are being shot by professionals, you know that the demand is there. You just need to shift the demand to your business. And the flip side is also true. If you see nothing or few, you just have to create the demand, which is not that hard in this business, because once 1 or 4 or 7 agents start doing it, the rest are like, oh, I don't want to be left behind, and they'll potentially start using you. And so this is generally what we're seeing. Some areas you'll find are like really spread out, which I can't really demonstrate on here. But if you have an area that's like a bunch of small cities spread out, you may still be able to build a business there. In fact, you will. It's just probably going to be more driving. So you would say the first step before you do anything, any business you want to start, is make sure that 1, you want to do it. Make sure that 2, your market can support it. And this will give you some insight into that. You can at least get some data to back it up. But if you have any specific questions about your market, drop it in the comments below, and I'd love to answer those for you. Generally, I made this video because I think a lot of people, when they're considering starting a business, and first of all, starting a business, there's risk involved. There's also risk involved to not starting a business, right? But just because those are both true things doesn't mean we don't want to make sure that we're setting ourselves up for as much success as we can. And so that's why I recommend starting with this, but knowing that generally people who are asking the questions, oh, is my market big enough? Oh, can I do this? Oh, can I do this? You're just coming from a place of fear, which is super normal when you're starting a business. But knowing that the antidote to fear are facts will help you go down this rabbit hole of like, can my market actually support this? And this will give you some data on how to answer that question. But generally, I think 99% of you guys will be in a market where real estate photography is an option, regardless of the size, as long as it's not less than kind of what I mentioned earlier. So again, if you have any questions about your specific market, drop it in the comments and I'll do my best to answer. If you're thinking about jumping into real estate photography, market's only one thing. Make sure you want to do it. And a good way to see if you want to do this business is to watch my other videos here on YouTube. And if you're not already, follow me on Instagram. I post a lot of content there as well. If this seems like a good path for you, the next step I highly encourage you to take is to watch my workshop linked below. It's free. I have nothing to sell you in the workshop. Transparently, my business model is we work with a handful of people a month, one-on-one, through our coaching programs to help them grow their business. So if that's you, you'll have the opportunity to book a call on that workshop. But other than that, that workshop will give you a ton of value, kind of share with you how we recommend getting started as a company who has not only built our own real estate photography business, but also coached a lot of people through the process. So highly encourage you to check that out, and I'll see you in the next video.